He was an outcast. Turned out by his parents at a young age, he was on his own to fend for himself. He couldn't blame his parents. They did what they had to, but still, they didn't understand the pain he was in and the pain that rejection caused him. He could never be touched by another human being again, and no one would look at him in the eye. He was forced to cover himself with dirty rags in order to cover over his festering wounds. He was forced to call out, "Unclean!" as people passed by. His one hope was a man everyone spoke of. From a distance you could see him coming because of the crowds that were always surrounding him. Like a paparazzi swarm, it was near impossible to get close to this man, this Jesus. But Jesus was the only hope for him. How preposterous. Hello world, my name is David Dorn and this is Preposterous, which is not your typical Bible study, not at all. This man that I spoke of suffered from a disease called leprosy. Now, leprosy is a terrible disease that affects your nerves and the mucous membrane that covers over your organs. And you know you've got it when skin lesions appear and that horribly disfigure your body. You lose feeling in your hands and your feet, your extremities, because of the nerve damage. And without knowing, you damage those things because you can't feel it, which then infection sets in, which then causes your body parts to fall off. It's not a pretty thing. You can track this disease mainly by being close to people who have it. So the Old Testament laws prohibited anyone from touching a leper. In biblical times, this meant that you were cut off from the world. You needed healing, but you had no cure. Now, have you ever met people who do a lot of talking but never put any of their words into action? Notice I'm giving you all the benefit of the doubt, and goodness knows I've never done that.
Sarcasm.
Sarcasm. Perhaps we're all guilty of this at some point. We talk the talk, but do we walk the walk? Jesus didn't have a problem with this. Jesus made some pretty big statements on the Sermon on the Mount. Give, love, forgive, pray, don't hate, don't be a hypocrite, don't worry. But he not only said these things, he lived them out. Now when Jesus had come down from the mountain, large crowds followed him. A man with a skin disease came, kneeled before him and said, "Lord, if you want, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched him, saying, "I do want to. Become clean." Instantly his skin disease was cleansed. Jesus said to him, "Don't say anything to anyone. Instead, go and show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded. This will be a testimony to them." When Jesus got done preaching, he went into action. Jesus talked about living for the kingdom of God, and immediately he starts healing people. Healing and restoration, mercy and forgiveness, righteousness and redemption. This is what the kingdom of God is about. In verses 2 through 17, Jesus spends much of his time healing people who needed him. We are to believe in the kingdom of God, and then we are to live into the kingdom of God. Now, I love what this man with leprosy does next. He made his way through this very thick crowd, which is a big no-no for a leper. And he kneels down before Jesus and he says, "Lord, if you want, you can make me clean." Here's a man with no other hope. He risks everything to come before Jesus just to say, "If healing me is what you want to do, you can." Faith is the reality of what we hope for, the proof of what we don't see. And this man had faith in Jesus. Jesus touched the man and said, "I do want to be clean." Interesting side note, Jesus broke the law in order to heal this man. Remember, you weren't allowed to touch a leper, and Jesus did. In fact, Jesus often broke the law when it came to healing people because he saw the value of a life was worth more than procedure. "Don't tell anyone," Jesus said. Now, how are you going to go off and heal somebody like this, give them their life back, and then tell them you can't say anything? Jesus didn't want to be turned into a sideshow act, because before long, people from far and wide would be lining up to get Jesus to do something. if word got out. Instead, Jesus wanted people with faith to find him. Almost every miracle Jesus performs in the Bible, someone approached him. And very often, Jesus tells them it's because of their faith that they are made whole. Jesus goes on in Matthew 8 to heal a Roman centurion's servant and Peter's mother-in-law. Apparently, Peter had a mother-in-law worth keeping because after Jesus healed her, she got up and made them lunch. But in this chapter, Jesus heals a leper, a Roman officer's servant, and a woman. All three had people who approached Jesus, and all three were people who were considered outcast by Jewish culture. This tells me that God doesn't care who the accepted members of society are. He cares about people. And God responds to people who have a preposterous faith. A faith that is solely dependent upon Him showing up. Faith is the catalyst for miracles. But can I say that God will heal every person who has faith in Him? I can't. I don't know that. But I do know this. He knows you. Healing doesn't always have to deal with health, but the act of bringing wholeness. Can you name 3 areas in your life where you need God to make you whole? You can leave that in a comment or a video response. Just make sure you put action to your words. And if you make it a video response, you could end up with an iTunes gift card. I hope you have a great day. God bless. If you enjoy Preposterous, share it with your friends and like this video. And make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, and you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. If you have any questions for me, you can always tweet me at IamPreposterous. And if you're a small group leader and would like to use it for your small group, you can sign up on our website, preposterousproject.com. Thanks for watching. A faith that is solely a